G'day and welcome to the Inforunners round 3. This is Algared and Paul, and we're doing MISC day for the UAE. It's currently 3:30 a.m. in the morning, and I think it's 10 a.m. where you are, Paul. So you got to sleep in.
Yeah.
So we're going to kick it off. Go straight over the browser, and we're into. We're into
both
MISC.
thinking about sleeping in, so you know.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So the MISC Freelancer, the upgrade here, I personally would have liked to have seen something a bit more interesting, considering the Freelancer's kind of available all the time.
Yep.
I don't know what ship that would have been, but just being available all the time, I find that like a little bit of a dead CCU.
Although it is discounted, so
Yeah. So the probably the most interesting one out of the Freelancers today would have to be the MISC. Would you like tell us a little bit about the MISC, please, Paul, since you were talking about this before the show?
Yeah. So the MISC is. I always recommend the MISC as the. I think it's next to the Max. It's the best ship, the best freelancer variant. Just because it essentially is like a Cutlass. Whereas with the Cutlass you get the flexibility of combat with some cargo space. And with MISC, it's about the same. You have a lot of combat capabilities plus a lot of cargo space. So for things like smuggling, it can be pretty good because you've got a lot of protection for you. Its major downside is it doesn't have speed, but it's a sneaky combat ship. It has a lot of firepower for its price. It is very cheap in comparison to something like the Vanguard or Harbinger, which would be its equivalent in terms of general firepower and general kind of aesthetic. And the only other thing that's cheaper than it that has as many missiles is something like the Talon or the whatever it's called, the Shrike variant of the Talon.
Yeah.
So and it's bigger, has cargo. It's just a much better all around ship, and in the same kind of classification as something like the Cutlass.
Really interesting way to look at it, Paul, as a competitor to the Shrike, because I think, I would go for this over the Shrike, hands down.
Building on what Paul was saying there, it's a much better pirate ship than a Cutlass. Because the Cutlass has basically seating for 2, a MISC has seating for 4, so you can actually have your pilot and a boarding crew of 3.
And still carry the same the rocks as well. You can still carry the rocks.
And you can still carry the rocks. So
I think
in some way a better dude than the Cutlass for piracy. There you go.
And because it looks a little bit like the Dur as well, I think if you chucked a skin on it, later on when you can't just see ship names straight away, I think it'll be quite deceptive, as you said, Paul.
Yeah.
I think you'll get away with a lot more. They think, oh, I'm sneaking up on an Explorer and surprise, little sting.
All of a sudden it's, oh crap. Surprise, nothing but missiles, you know?
Surprise, mother!
Yeah, you can dodge a couple of them. Yeah, so you can dodge one of them, but can you dodge all of them? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. It's back when we did Star Signal, we actually called that the misery, because that's what it causes to other people. Yeah, again, just going along the lineup, you got Prospectors and Razors. These are available every day of the week. So there might be one of these special editions that I'm forgetting that is available for the Razor. Is there one that you guys know of, or are they all available?
I can't remember.
Yeah. That's how much we care about the Razors. Anyway. Moving on.
Back in the day, the Razor was a great LTI token. That was about it.
If you like racing, if you like racing, I think there's even better ships for races, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think the Mako we don't see too often, and I don't think we see the. No, these are all in game now, so no, they're probably available all the time. Yeah. And they're not in a great place, really, are they?
I'd say the Mako is probably the only one that's decent. The Mako is the combat variant. And and that's
no. You're talking about the Tanner. That's the combat variant.
Thank you. Yeah. The Mako is the garbage one, because the Mako is the one that's the news van. The news van, isn't it?
Yeah. Mako's the yellow one here. Yeah. This is for streamers. Yeah, this was made for
streamers. The streamers van. Yep.
Yeah, it's a gimmick.
It's even. Yeah. It's a gimmick ship that doesn't even work because no streamer would use it. Like even the camera attached to it, the second seat is garbage. It's just really bad quality. Like
I will say,
there's no point to it.
Just quietly, the Sen could be a sleeper because it's the only other science ship in the game besides another ship we're going to talk about today, which is the Endeavour. So we don't know its full potential yet. But again, the Reliant itself is just not in a good place. So I don't have high hopes, but I have a little hope for this ship. So we'll kind of see where that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Um,
much further
yeah,
down the road.
I would say with the Reliance, what's important to remember is that the Reliant is not a ship of it's not really a ship for now. It's a ship for
Mm.
when persistence comes in.
Yeah.
Because, like, for instance, the Tana has a lot of firepower. It has similar firepowers to like a base Hornet almost
Yeah.
in terms of like missiles as well. But it also has two beds. It has place for armor and weapons, and it has a small little 1 SCU cargo space that you can
Mm.
put stuff on, little cargo grid. So it is, if you are a mercenary, and I mean mercenary, I mean like FPS kind of player who also has to have a ship. Just you and a buddy pop into that thing, and you can go off pretty much anywhere.
Yep.
So it's not a bad ship for that option, and for the price, you're not going to get a better price anything in this in the price range.
I would still go to the
And
Titan. to
and
be honest,
Titan doesn't.
yeah.
All right, this is something that came
yeah,
up. Titan does not have any storage capability, nor does it have a weapons rack.
Yeah, okay,
and
I'll give you that. But it does have the
and the other
cargo though, so it's kind of
yeah,
you lose one, gain another. Yeah.
and the other thing that the Reliant has, which the only other ship that I can think of that's lower level, that has the same thing, is the Mustang, where the turret can spin and fire backwards. And the advantage that the Reliant has is your gunner,
Yeah.
your second player could take the gun and
Yeah,
I think and
that
control it
is
and spin it backwards.
a massive advantage, and you don't really see something like that again until you get to the Cutlass, do you? So yeah, I
No.
guess it's got that going for it. For combat wise, yeah, it definitely got the two-player
Mhm.
vibe going. Starfarer,
Nope.
kind of been in a bad place for a while. But I'm starting to come around and kind of realize that it's the only gas collector in the game. But again, we just don't know how profitable that's going to be. So it's another
$300 too. It's like,
what if,
is it
yeah.
worth it?
Yeah.
You know,
But it does
it's a
do
big.
multiple things. It's got a really big cargo bay. It can fit lots of vehicles in it. I think this ship does suffer from age though.
Yeah.
It really is like a flying Counter-Strike level. It was
Yeah.
really before they had plans worked out on how the ships should be built. It was more built as a show-off piece, or they use it as space wreckage a lot.
Look, it was built. It was really built when they were bringing in the FPS, and
Mm,
they wanted an FPS level, and that's really what it was built as. And you can see that just by the rabbit warren maze of the ship.
yeah.
But it does have great cargo. It does have fuel capacity. It does have seating for quite a lot of people. But
Yeah, it kind
it's a
of is
nightmare.
like a multi-function role because of its size. Like, so what
Yeah.
Algared's trying to allude to there with the big cargo bay and seating is you can also use it at a drop ship in a pinch, but it's like trying to do everything and kind of
Yeah.
fails because jack of all trades, master of none. That sums it up nicely, really. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I think this will probably be our second big pick of the day after the MISC would be the Endeavour. This ship is just it does so much. Like you can see all the modules here you can buy. Um, but I don't recommend the modules, and I also don't recommend the master set because again they're quite cheap. I think the most expensive one is like $120. This is in
Yeah.
Australian pricing. And there is one that's missing from here, which is a collider, and I think that might be even more expensive again. There is a master set that comes with all of it, which is here somewhere, but it eludes me at
The
the
last one on
moment.
the list,
Last one on the list, is it?
I think it was. Yeah.
Nope, that's a hole. Oh, it
No,
might be down. Oh,
must
down
be
here.
down one.
Yeah, there we go. So it's $1,000 US, and it does come with LTI. But again, you're really paying for all the modules in the game,
Yeah.
and they're just a lot easier
Yeah,
to
and when
obtain.
they increased the price of that, it used to be about It used to be $900. When they increased the price, they basically just added a second in biodome.
Biodome. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anything you've got to say about the Endeavour, Paul, or modules or anything? Or
It is the Endeavor base is a huge ship that is definitely an investment in later gameplay, and it's going to
mm,
get more expensive.
yeah,
The
100%.
size, fully kitted out with everything, it was said to be almost the size of a Bengal carrier
Yeah,
at
which
one
is
point. So
that's crazy.
And
it's
that's
massive.
insane.
I like
Yeah.
just with the price of this master set at $1,000. I just want to ask you guys: would you, if you had to pick between only these two options, a master set or like 2 or 3 endeavors for the same price? Like I would take multiple endeavors before I took the master set. That's just the way I feel.
Yeah.
But how would you guys take that?
I
Would you?
agree. The thing
Yeah.
is that you could probably buy a lot of um, these modules in game.
Mm,
Then I doubt that they're worth the money you're purchasing for. I mean,
yeah.
like getting the biodome might be a good idea if you want to be a space farmer, if you want to do
Mm,
other things. But like, we know that you can't use all of the modules at once. Like
exactly.
they're only, you can only use a couple of them at a time. There's some that won't that will block others, so there won't be entirely. So getting the master set, which is like a nice to be able to swap them out.
Mm,
Again, we're talking about a ship that's not coming out until after the release of the game.
yeah.
There's no way this game is coming out until
Yep.
after like past beta. So
I've got a follow-up
like,
question for Algared though, because I know Algared, you actually have the master set, don't you?
Had
Yourself? Oh, you had.
and
You
in
got rid
answer
of
to
it.
your
You got
in
rid of
answer to
it.
your well, because the modules are in another pack, but in answer to your question, whether I
Mm,
would get multiple Endeavour base and a master pack, before I actually got the pack that has all the modules in it, I
mhm.
did actually decide to melt the master pack and get multiple copies of the Endeavour
Yeah.
because
Mm.
actually before I melted it, I actually got multiple copies of the Endeavour as well, and then melted it.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my
So
question because I remember you and I talking about how you had a master set and you got enough endeavors so you could use all the
yep,
modules in it. And wasn't it like
yep,
4 endeavors to
yep.
use everything? Crazy.
4 Endeavours will enable you to use
Yeah.
every module,
Yeah. So
and I
that
think then you've still got 1 or 2 left over.
Yeah, that just
It's
kind of
insane.
shows you what you're better off doing is just, if you want, if there are so many modules in here that you want to kind of use them multiple times, maybe consider getting 2 endeavors instead of a master set. If you are that way inclined, like if you really really want that
Yeah.
endeavor gameplay.
And there
These
are only 2 modules that are 2x2. That's the hospital and the collider.
Yeah.
All the others are 2x1, which means they take up one of the supposed slots. And so you
Right.
look at all the modules and you go, yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the whole series. Now, Paul, you wanted to talk about these ones, I believe. The whole A and the
yes.
whole B.
So Hull A is probably going to increase in price. I can almost guarantee that it'll increase in price.
Yep.
It's a career starter. Like it's
Agreed.
similar. It's up there with
Yeah.
I'd call it
the other
advanced
ones.
starter.
And
I don't know about you boys, but that's what I would call it, an
uh,
advanced starter.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd call it an advanced starter, but
Profession
I would say
starter.
it's definitely a profession starter.
Yeah, yeah.
Similar
It's probably
to the
similar to the
it
Herald in that regard. Like I'm looking at profession starter.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, the
Herald,
Herald's
it's probably up there with
$90.
the.
I
Well,
don't.
I also I believe it's going to go up in price. I think it's
Yep.
Well,
got to
yeah,
go up in
it's
price when it gets
probably
closer
only
to the
going to go
game.
$10
Either
though,
that,
so that would put it at $70. So it's still probably going to be the cheapest profession starter in the game. To be honest.
Um, and so but it's also one of the easiest accessible professions, which is hauling.
Yep.
Yes.
The thing that I would caution people against, because a lot of people are like, the whole A is just so much better because they're just looking at the stats on the sheets. Like those stats change.
Mm,
Those stats change all the time. It has 300 SCU of cargo space.
mm,
Even if you half that, it's still a freelancer max. Like
yeah.
it's still a nuts amount of cargo for the price.
I
So
I
don't
lean
just
more
stare
towards the
at that.
B though because it's the only so the whole A and the whole B. I lean towards the B
Mhm.
because the B has the ability to land where everything above that has to land or can't land without compromise. So
Yes.
the whole C, for example,
Um,
can't use its bottom piece when it lands. So I think the whole
mhm.
B is probably in a really unique
Yep.
position where the whole A is just the smallest. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
hull A and hull B are the only 2 that can land fully laden.
yeah.
yeah,
Um,
and I will say that the whole A is good if you want to start off as like kind of a starter. If you're like, hey, I have an Aurora, and you're like, but I want to do like a space trucking. I love Euros truck sim or American truck
yep.
sim, and
Mm.
I like Elite Dangerous trucking. Get the whole A if
Yep.
that's your thing. If you're on the budget, but if you're looking for like the actual profession starter, the um Prospector or
Oh, okay.
the Vulture. That is the B. The B is that kind
Yep.
of level, and it's
And
the
you
same price.
And you look at the pricing there, it really is that profession starter price, whereas the Hull A is that literally starter ship price, isn't it?
Yeah.
In comparison.
Well, the whole B is exactly the same price as the Herald. I
Yep.
do think
And
though the
I will
B.
also say one thing. I will say one thing before we go. Don't also a lot of people are thinking like comparing this to other ships. This has no guns. The guns on
Yeah.
it are pathetic. Do not
Well,
if you have
that's
any desire to do any kind of combat, you
Yeah.
don't buy this ship. Yeah.
It's a step above the Nomad, isn't it? So it loses even more guns in that regard. But what I was going to say is these guys do actually have a place late game too, where you get, say, something like a Kraken, a Hull B or a Hull A is literally going to be the ship that can deliver stuff cheaply to the surface, saving the Kraken in itself from repetitively going down and back. These will be the ships that really. I expect to see these on a lot of space stations. So think of
Yep.
Microtech right now and Port Tressler. I think Port Tressler's not above Microtech, but just
Yep.
constantly going backwards and forwards. That's probably how you'll make most of your money in these ships. Just delivering stuff that really big, like say a whole E rocks up to Port Tressler. Everything from that space station will probably be brought down in hulls Bs and maybe a C, just to get it to the surface.
Yeah, just because of the mass they can carry and the size of the ships.
So it
and
really does have that going for it. Like it's going to span the entire length of the game. So it's going to be a highly, you can always fall back on it. I don't know what to call that. Just a ship you can fall back on, in times like that.
and the Hull A for me does do the whole vibe of the Red Dwarf and the little bug ship.
Star
It's
bug,
just got
yeah.
that nice little aesthetic. But
The whole C for me is the weirdest one because I find it competes the most with the Banner Merchantman, and I think the Banner Merchantman is just a better buy. I don't really have too much of an opinion on the whole E and D. I do know Hayes used to be in love with these ships. Like he wants to build massive big trains. What are your
yes,
guys' quick thoughts on the whole D and E and C if you wish to comment on that?
probably the big thing is that they're not readily available, even though the Hull C
Yep.
certainly isn't readily available, and yet it is said to be the most common merchant ship we have in game. So if you're really into that, this might be the time to get it because you can't normally get it. But
I remember somewhere 2 hours ago they said the cargo that these two carry is actually more valuable than the ship because they carry so much cargo.
And they carry huge amounts. And
so these are really only, in short, Algared, because I do want to move on. Would you agree that these are probably for the hardest hardcore of cargo hauling? Like these are, if you're buying these, you're in it, so to speak.
Yeah, and you're not taking one source of, you're not just taking Laranite because you'd flood the market if
you'll be taking a whole space station worth of stuff. Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah.
It's resupply the whole station, not just one thing. So yeah.
All right. Last thing, as we went over the must pack already, are these two new packs from the Chairman's Club. They basically have everything from MISC, except they don't have the modules from the Master Set. I believe there was a bit of a discount. I'm probably not a fan of buying a massive pack like that. Algared and Paul, what are your take on that? Because I'd never spend that much in one go. Probably Algared's the only one. I don't know, Paul, unless you want to say anything.
No, I mean, like that whole thing is like I would just say that it's with the problem with these packs is they often have duplicates. So you get like all of the freelancer variants, which is like great, but you will never use all the freelancer variants. Like, there's a lot of wasted money in there.
Yeah, so you can.
Often a lot of wasted money.
It's got like every freelancer. It's got every single hull. It's got every single Reliant, every single MISC. So yeah, it's just a really really bad idea.
They're collector's packs or CCU tokens. So if you're someone who knows I want this many ships, all of those give you the options to CCU to.
So pretty rare. Pretty rare.
And that's about it, really.
Yeah. New paints for the Prospector. Can't say I'm really a fan of either. Probably the white one for me. You two, blue or white?
I like the blue.
Prospector. The blue, okay. Algared,
The blue,
blue or
not
white?
It's kinda
bad.
like a
I
safety
like.
blue.
I don't mind them both, but at $12, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll keep my
Well,
money.
6 for the blue
I'll
and
spend my
9 for the white.
I'll spend my
Same.
money on
remember-
ships rather than skins. There you go.
Remember that most of these skins will also be available to purchase in game, just
Exactly.
in 312
Yep.
or
Yep.
313.
Just
So
like
there's
ships.
same skins for the freelancer that was at Invictus. The only reason I can actually think of ever picking up a skin is, like I said before, is for the misery, to make it look more like the Dur. It's literally the only reason. Same thing again for the Starfarer. Same skins from Invictus. Nothing new there. So that is it for today. Another kind of lackluster day for me. We did kind of go into a bit of depth here, though. The whole series is a weird series of ships for me. It really does break a lot of what's that word I use? Conventions. It breaks a lot of conventions because you don't often see the same sort of ship repeatedly from the same type of manufacturer. So, it is one ship that does break a convention.
Yeah.
Well,
isn't even the creation of that just the concept artists were sold, hey, we're doing the Hull C, and they went and said, yeah, okay, well, we've got the Hull C, there must be others, and they went boom, 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 and they created the whole line. And CIG went, yeah, okay, we'll keep them.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything you'd like to add, Paul, about today, or you're done?
That's it. I think the
Cool.
MISC has got the most variety. I think it's got the most variety of the ships. And there's a couple of sleepers that I'd look at if you're depending on which kind of gameplay you're looking at.
Yeah. So what did we say? MISC, Endeavour, and was there another one? Nope. Oh, the whole A and the whole B if you're for starters. Yeah. Cool. All right, we'll leave it at that. He's been Algared. He's been Paul. I've been Execute, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Take care. God bless. Be well.